Everybody's got their goodies. So pleased to meet you. My name is Jason Alari. I know most of you, I think. I'm the Executive Director of the Historical Society, and it's fabulous. We have so many new faces here for our BLT. Maybe not new to the Historical Society, but I'm looking forward to chatting with the new folks in the room. And we have a wonderful crowd. We have our upcoming events on the slide, so I'm not going to go through that litany of the upcoming events for the sake of time, but we do want to recognize Mel Linda Mills and Robert and Eugene Repsher for sponsoring today's BLT. And if you'd like to sponsor a BLT and be acknowledged for helping this event and honoring the speaker, please come see me, and you can also see more information in your membership pack about that. So I'm going to introduce the Maurer family. Janet and George Maurer Sr. moved to Manchester where George was a partner and then owner of Maurer and Miller Meats for 25 years. George Sr. was very active in the Lionsborough Manchester Lions Club and the Carroll County Democratic Club. Corinne Corpus remembers the fabulous steaks he would serve when he hosted the club's picnics. George and Janet, who is here with us today, were married for 59 years before his death in 2011 at age 80. George Jr. joined his father in the butchering and meat market business. In addition to running the business, George Jr. also became quite a well-known artist in the county, working in acrylic and watercolor. He specializes in farmscapes, the butcher shop, and produce. His wife, Mary Kay Maurer, is retired from the faculty of Carroll Community College, where she now serves on the board. Their daughter, Amber, is the marketing manager of Carroll County Public Library. Birthday today. Round of applause for the birthday girl. Also a graduate of McDaniel College, Amber is a ballerina who studies with Medora Linz at her ballet slipper studio in Westminster, and I have found out she just completed a very demanding recital this past weekend. Amber is also an artist and is a member of the board of the Carroll County Arts Council. She and her father had a show at the Carroll County Arts Center in 2014 titled Meet the Maurers. They have another show, Agricolor, opening at CCAC this July. And can we have a warm round of applause and welcome the family to the mic here to share their story.
So happy to see everyone here today. I hope you have your boxed lunches and you're all comfy. Settled in to hear about our family butcher shop. We will be doing pictures afterwards if you'd like with the bacon.
You can try it on.
Yeah, you're more welcome to try it on as well.
After the talk, well, we have a display area in the back. You're welcome to walk back and take a look at the items. You can pick them up. Please don't pick up the knives. They are working tools. So we don't want anybody to get hurt. But you can take a look, and some things are, well, it's a lot of memorabilia.
All right, we're all set now. So welcome to our presentation, The Art of Maurer Family Butchering in Manchester. So today we're going to talk about the history of the butcher shop, as well as how it has influenced our art. Next slide. History. First, we're going to start with the history of the butcher shop and how our family came to be involved and how we moved to Manchester. Next slide, please. In the 1950s and 60s, this is where it all began. In the early 50s, my grandfather, George, became friends with Eugene Miller when they were in the Marines together. They remained friends for years afterwards, and they would go visit each other on vacations, with Eugene and Margaret coming up to Michigan, where my grandparents lived, to visit for vacation, and then the Maurers coming down to Maryland to visit. Back, so I wasn't finished yet. George worked at Johnson's Meatpacking in Kalamazoo, Michigan. This is where he learned how to do the processing of pork products. So he learned how to cure, smoke the products, and he also learned all the modern butchering techniques. Next slide, please. Partnership formed from 1958 to 1962. So in 1958, Eugene's parents, Charlie and Mary Miller, were retiring, and Eugene needed a partner to help him run the butcher shop. So he thought, and he said, you know what? My friend George up in Michigan really knows how to do butchering techniques and all the latest in technology. So he invited my grandfather down for a 2-year trial partnership. See if they would, work together well and see if it would be a good partnership for them both. So he came down and they worked for 2 years together, and it was a success. So they formed a successful partnership together, and they became permanent partners and established Maurer and Miller Meats in 1962. George moved the family from Kalamazoo, Michigan, down to Manchester, Maryland, and there they lived in a little house on Main Street for 4 years that they rented, and then they built a house just outside of town where they raised their 9 children together. Next slide, please. Yes, raising 9 children deserves applause. George and Eugene's partnership from 1962 to 1987. And there you see on, we got my laser pointer. There's George and that's Eugene. Next slide, please. It became a family affair with everyone working at the butcher shop. George, Janet, after the kids went to school, and of course all their kids worked there.
Yes, it was expected. You're not going to sit home and watch Mickey Mouse. You're going to be at the shop. And it was a great experience. It was a learning experience. Every one of my sisters and their children worked at the shop. We were there, my father there at the table, and then Tom, my brother-in-law, there, and Kenny Miller, Eugene's son, is there also. At the table, now we took a break every morning. Now we started at 6, and at 8:30, everyone would sit down, and we would have coffee and a cake or some kind of a sweet roll. And you can see here that in the photo there, I'm there in the front, my father, my brother Stephen, Tom. Now here's the interesting part. Mary Kay's dad worked for me. And his son, C.L. Nevius, worked for me also. And my folks did at co-op. We wanted to expand a little bit, so my parents did a demo at the co-op in Westminster one weekend. Next slide, please.
In 1987, the business changes.
In 1987, Eugene wanted to expand and build a grocery store. And they built Miller's Market. And when they did that, they closed the 2-lane grocery store that was at Maurer and Miller Meats and moved to the market. George didn't want any parts of the retail, and he stuck at the butcher shop. He remained at the butcher shop. Well, upon hearing that, and that Eugene decided to give or sell his half of the business to my brother-in-law, Tom. Tom had worked there for since he got out of high school in 1969. So when my father heard that Eugene offered his half of the business to Tom, he offered his half of the business to my brother Stephen. Stephen was working at Black & Decker nights, and he would come to the butcher shop on kill days, and he worked there 3 days a week, plus working at Black & Decker at night. I was working at the SK Meat Company at the time in Baltimore. Well, it turns out that Stephen and Tom thought, well, let's ask George. So they asked they asked me, and I said, sure, let's try it. So in '87, my father bought Eugene Miller's half of the business, and the three of us started to pay on my father's whole part of the business. So in 1987, it started April 1st. We started April 1st, and Amber was born June 17th of that year. So I had a wife and a baby coming, and oh my goodness, I'm starting a whole new lifestyle. But it wasn't anything that was strange, for as a kid, we were there, so we knew what we were getting into. Next slide, please.
The family affair continues. The next generation of Maurers working at the shop.
Now what you have here is everybody started making boxes. Everybody started washing dishes, pots and pans, washing equipment. So these are pictures of my nieces, my Katie, Stephen's daughter, her sister Kim, and then Tom's daughter Jennifer, and then Katie in the red, Amber over on the right, boxing, and then my niece Tanya, Mary Katie's sister Pat's daughter, came to the butcher shop, and she was working there also. But, okay. So upon more photos, we all had when we did start the business, we had a celebratory dinner, and with all the families, all the partners and their wives had a dinner at the Pixie up in New Oxford. And so then we had more photos. The Lions Club, my father involved in the Lions Club. Well, he did a lot of bull roast and a lot of cooking, catering. And my brother Stephen is there on the grill, and we used a truck. It was a great supply, storage area. Everybody's at break table, and we were like, I want to say we were one step up from a farm shop, and that just like at home, everybody sat down together, you worked together, and you had break. So you can see my brother Stephen in the background, his daughter Katie, and everybody else, all employees. We had under 10 employees at the time. And my wife's cousin, Tina, is boxing meat on Saturday. Amber went to Italy one year for college, and I needed help. So I told Tina, just come and box meat Saturdays only. 2 weeks. Amber's only going to be gone 2 weeks. Well,
10 years later.
yeah, 10 years later, till we closed, 10 years, Tina always teased me, but what's the longest 2 weeks? Well, I said, well, you haven't seen the calendar. But now, Tom's daughter, Wendy, worked wrapping meat. So it was a family affair, and everybody got their hands dirty. Everybody was a part of the business. Next slide, please.
The USDA is established in Maryland.
Now, it used to be in Carroll County, the butcher shops, the local butcher shops, they were owner-operated, and they worked on their own schedule. Well, the state of Maryland came in, and we became a Maryland State Inspected Meat Company. And what that meant was that we could sell to the public, but we could not sell interstate. We couldn't to sell to Pennsylvania or Virginia. So Governor Shaver, in cost cutting, in 1994, Governor Shaver said, why is the state providing meat inspection when we have the USDA? So he stopped Maryland meat inspection. The USDA started to come in, and they had a higher standard. Maryland was to meet the standard, but when the feds came in, it was a different, different train of thought. You will comply. So it was a good thing because they made us make a lot of improvements. Improvements to lighting, improvements to plumbing, and record. And then roll them across the rail to the cutting room cooler, the slide you saw earlier, where they were in quarters. There you go. And that meat was there till we brought it out and cut it into the custom cuts that our customers wanted. Every farmer, and some of you are here, every farmer that brought us an animal to us, we gave them a direction card. How many people are you selling this to? Well, we're selling to 4 people. Everybody's going to get a split side. And we would divide that animal up into 4 ways. So that everybody got a little bit of steak, everybody got a little bit of roast, everybody got a little bit of, it's divided equally. Well, somebody wants their steaks 1 inch, somebody wants their steaks 3/4. I want 1.5 pounds, I want 2-pound packages. I don't want that. So, like, do you cook a brisket? No. Well, you didn't lose it. If you didn't use an item, it went to ground beef, but you still got it. So while Tom and Steve were there at the shop cutting meat, I was on the meat route. So I was back to other routes and delivering wholesale to the local stores in the area. But switching the cattle was the biggest thing to get ready for Friday. Fridays, well, Friday is the day we kill beef. Sanitation, like always. We would get the kill floor ready, and while the kill floor crew was getting ready, the meat cutting crew was cutting in the meat room. The ladies were wrapping in the wrapping room. Everything was going on at the same time. After we killed the animals, normally about 12 or so head of beef, and depends, maybe 12 head of lamb and a couple goats. And that was starting at 7, and we were trying to be done by 1 because we started sanitation. And you see where it says boning heads. Well, you don't throw anything out. So we would recover the cheek meat off of the beef and the temple meat, and that was my job. I was the head boner. That sounds terrible, I'm sorry. Now, after we boned it, that's terrible. It's okay. But then we would slice offal, okay? Something that nobody wanted. Oh, I don't like liver. I don't want liver. So we would slice the livers, trim the tails, and divide them up so they could be wrapped efficiently. We would trim the heart, trim the valves and the cartilage out of the heart, and trim the fat off the heart, trim the tongues, and where it would chill out overnight and wrapped the next day. And after we did the offal, well, we had hams that were in brine. So we gotta get ready to smoke hams. So we would net the hams and put them back in a tub for wait for further processing. Netting, I mean a stocking net. And we put the stocking net over the hams and next, well, if you want to back up, this is a steer that is on a cradle, not on the floor, it's on the cradle, and you skin it, and then it's being, and Ryan lobby climbing, the two gentlemen there, they're getting ready to pull it back to the hoist where it will be eviscerated. Next stop. Saturday, Amber.
I'm going to take over Saturdays because this was my main specialty. In the wrapping room, we wrapped every day, but Saturdays, I started when I was in 7th grade. Come in the morning, you box meat, and then when you're done boxing meat, and the whole time you're answering the phone and waiting on customers, you wrap the offals, which you will see here. These are the offals that were chilled overnight from Friday. They would wait there in pans, and I would get them out and wrap them all individually. So here's a whole table full of wrapped lamb livers. Freezer wrap them, make sure that no frost can get in and damage the product, and then put them in the freezer. After we wrap the offals, of course, all the customers are coming in because everyone has off on Saturday, so they want to pick up their meat on Saturday when they're off. So we had customers coming in and out, picking up their meat, their wholesale meat. We also had a lot of retail sales on Saturday, so it was answering the phone, waiting on customers coming through the door. And then, of course, we would do a deep clean of all the equipment and make sure everything was ready for Monday. Because you want to do as little as possible on Monday, you want to get it over with and have it ready to go.
Now the hams that we netted on Friday, Saturday we hung them on smoked meat racks. And they were racks that we rolled into a smokehouse, and there was a fire pit down below. There was a basement and a first floor. We would put wood in a steel wood box, and then we had gas fire underneath that steel wood box. The key was the gas gave the heat to process the product, to cook it, and the smoke was to never catch fire. Because if the wood should never catch fire, should only smolder and smoke and give the meat the color that it needed. So we loaded the wood box, lit the fire, checked to make sure it was done, and we did that Sunday night. We smoked the hams Sunday night, all night, and then we brought them out Monday morning before we started work for killing hogs. So.
All right, again, the wrapping room, this is my specialty. So my father just went through the day-to-day on the front half, or the first half of the process, from the animals walking in all the way through to the cutting room. Now my half is the latter half of the process. So we would get the tubs of meat out, and we would wrap the meat, either vacuum packing or with freezer paper, and then freeze it. And then after it was frozen overnight, flash frozen, in a negative 15-degree freezer, then we would box it up and have it ready for the customers to pick up. So you can see in this picture here, this is the wrapping room. And the cooler door is over here. We'd roll the tub in. This is the wrapping table. There would be a head wrapper who would stand here and would place the meat out on the paper and would follow the direction card. Oh, they want 2 steaks per pack, or oh no, they only want 1 steak per pack. All the special instructions that people wanted. And then they would slide it down the table, and we would have a person sitting on this side of the table, which you can't see, and a person on this side of the table, who would wrap it as fast as possible, make sure everything was tight so that no air could get in and damage the meat. And then we would have a basket here, load up the baskets, put it on a cart, on a rack, and put it in the freezer, and it would freeze overnight. For labeling, we started out writing with wax pencils, labeling. You had to know each cut of meat. You have to know every part. So you write it down, and then you put it in the basket, so that people can pull it out and know what it is later. Especially with it being wrapped in paper, you can't really see the product. Then we switched to stamps. And we used to have a whole rack of stamps, and you'd pull out, you'd memorize where each stamp was for each body part. And you get the sausage stamp, okay, get the liver stamp, and you do it as fast as you can, because you can't waste time. So you had to have everything memorized, and then stamp it and put it in. Then, eventually, near the end, we switched to a label maker. So there was a different set of memorization. You had to know which buttons to push, whether it got the seal or not, whether it was for a farm store, or if it didn't have the seal, and then you had to know where each piece was based on the number on the side, so you had to memorize all the numbers for the cut of meat. And so you had to, okay, program in, oh, we need this many sausage stickers, so and it would print out, and then you had to replace the paper and all that. So here you can see this is the last step, the last way of labeling we did with the printer, printing out the labels, and these are little link sausages, big labels. And there's my tape dispenser. Love that thing. Next slide, please. The tools of the shop.
Tools, being one step, being a farm shop, one step up from a farm shop, our business was hand tools. Everything was done by hand. It wasn't a assembly line. So here we have a picture of the kill floor, Saturday, prepped for Monday morning. We have the barrel, the hog hooks for hanging the hogs on a rail, the inspection table, and just set up for when we were going to start on Monday. Everything was done by hand, pretty much. And the tools, the next slide, please. Now, tools of trade. On the far left, we have a block cleaver, and this is used for chopping. Bucky knows about that, but we would use that, to cut through the bone. A cleaver. Then we had a steel, and a steel puts when you use your knife, cutting through the meat, that micro edge wavers. And when you run your knife across your steel, it straightens that edge, so you have less drag. That's why it feels sharper. A steel. And then we had a breaking knife, which is like a 10-inch knife, a boning knife for closer work to the bone, a hand saw, and the hand saw was used for cutting bone, and then we have a two-handed cleaver. And this was, when I was a kid, they split the hogs with a cleaver. They didn't use a power saw. And Mr. Miller or my father would use a cleaver, two-handed, and split the hogs. Now, we used that, I must say, some of our farmers had customers, and they wanted the ewe, which needed us to still use the cleaver to chop the backbone out on the pig first. Donated pig liver lobes that had the gallbladder attached. Normally you would take the gallbladder off. Well, if they needed so many lobes for the training, we would save that lobe, and then they would practice going in through the gallbladder and then removing it laparoscopically. And Fort Detrick would come from Frederick on Mondays, and the AIDS epidemic, we provided hog mauls. We tied them at both ends, and they would come pick up how many ever they needed, and they'd take them back and they'd research and find out how the AIDS virus traveled through mucus. So how they were going to solve that problem. And during the Afghan war, a lot of our soldiers were having severe injuries from those IEDs, roadside bombs. So Walter Reed Army Medical came up, and we saved lamb lungs. We had to be very careful not to cut or scratch or to lose that balloon for that lung. And they would come up and they get the lamb lungs, take them back, blow them up. I shouldn't say blow them up. They'd inflate them, and then they would send a shock wave into them to simulate the bomb going off. Then look at the cells in the lung to see how the damage was and how they could correct it or how they could avoid it. So I was happy with that because it was something to me. I was in the Army Reserve. I retired out of it, and to be there helping the war effort, well, I like that. So for a long time, University of Maryland Dental School would come and we would save lower hog jaws. And these jaws we would put in a freezer, and they would send the dental students up. Oh, go up to Maurer Miller and get those hog jaws for the school. Well, we'd get 3 or 4 doctors in a little Pontiac, come up and get the jaws. I think it was like a rite of passage. They would come up. Well, we had 10 boxes of jaws, and like, where are you guys going to put them? Well, they sat with them on their laps. They put them in the trunk. They did everything to get those. But they were training those dentists for drilling and filling, extraction, and for gum disease. Johns Hopkins came up one time for the burn unit. They were trying to find a better way to skin graft, to recover the healthy graft of skin to put on the burn units. And they brought a machine up, and we skinned hogs with a skinner, which was kind of interesting. Tattoo students, anybody wanted to learn how to tattoo? Well, you can go online, but you better learn who you're going to tattoo. Well, they came to the butcher shop, and they bought pigskin. And we saved it every week, and they would tattoo, not that it happened all the time, but they would practice tattooing. Now, the 4-Hers, we did demonstrations at the Ag Center for 4-Hers, where we brought a half a hog up, we pre-cut it, put it back together, and then showed the 4-Hers where you pulled the pork loin out, where the ham was, where the pig feet were, and we gave a demonstration for them, and they liked it. And the homeschoolers. Well, there's a lot of homeschoolers out there. Well, we were a supply house for their science projects. And the Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts, it didn't matter. If you came to the butcher shop, we were happy to give you the 50-cent tour. It was open to everyone. And, okay, next slide.
The butcher shop was very important to local farmers in the area and throughout the state of Maryland, also into southern Pennsylvania.
Yes, we were a custom shop, and every animal that came in, that farmer we went over direction cards and how you want it cut. So, and it was offered to everyone. It wasn't, we gave you what you wanted. You were going to have to live with it. So, and we were happy to give, I talked about that 50-cent tour. If you're a new customer, a new farmer, and everybody knows the butcher has his thumb on the scale. Everybody knows that. You know, he's got his thumb on the scale. Well, trust is the biggest thing in our business. And when you were new, oh, you're new? Yes, I want a kill date, but I've never been here before. Well, let me show you around. I showed him where the animal was unloaded, how we marked them, how each animal was processed one at a time. It was weighed, tagged, and put in the box together, not separated. And after it came out, those from the side tag to the quarters of beef was tagged with a weight and the name. And from the cutting cards, it was weighed, it was tagged, and recorded. And that built the trust. Detailed records. We could tell you how many packs of scrapple you got in that hog, how many packs of bacon each person got, how many packs of Little Links. Oh, how many packs of hamburger patties you got. Because you paid for it to go through the machine, we counted it to make sure that that's what you got. So it was an inventory was taken and recorded on everything. Now, when I said about the state and the feds taking over, it used to be 10 butcher shops in Carroll County. It got down to 4. And that's when we were in business. So the agriculture is shrinking, but what saved us was the farmer's market, where the farmer brought their hogs to us, and he private labeled that product. So it would be a thing, I'm going to have Sleepy Hollow Farm sausage. I'm going to have, anything, your farm, we made that label for you. And you took it to the markets and sold it in a CSA store on the farm, or, they hauled it to fair. The business increased substantially. With only 4 butcher shops, everybody got on a bandwagon for private label. So it got to be where when we closed, we had over 110 private label farms, individual farms. That it was a lot. Farmers came from all over to Maurer Meats. And as you can see, all over from Maryland, Southern Maryland, Montgomery County, we had farmers come from the Eastern Shore. From all the way down Blackwater over there on the Eastern Shore. She brought her steers up twice a year, and we processed them for her. So our farmers came from all over, and our customers came from all over the world. We did special cuts. From, when they were used to, they're away from home, and how do you feel better? Well, you eat something that you used to eat at home. So, if a farmer, or if a customer came in, whether it be an Italian customer, we had Italian customers come in to get their capicola hams, to make their supasata, they would come in on Tuesdays to pick up that pork so they can make it. We had customers from Nigeria, we had customers from Mexico, Germany, Korea. Korea was great. They bought the pork butts, she took them home, she chopped them up, and she made fresh spring rolls, which she brought back for us to eat. Hand chopped. So we started having more bilingual, I don't speak any foreign language. But at first it started with Spanish, a lot of Mexicans, immigrant workers coming in. And it was charades. Okay, I want a beef tongue. I want beef tongue. I want a ham. You want a ham. Spare ribs. It's got to be charades. So Amber was in high school, and she's laughing at me like, Dad. So she came up with bilingual chart, which English, which really helped me learn a little bit of Spanish. But it also helped in that the first thing they did when they walked in, he said, "Hey, how you doing?" It was like, "Give me the paper." They would give me the paper, and then it was you could point and see what they wanted. Everybody has their own special cut, what they used to get at home, and you couldn't get it at the local grocery store. That was too generalized, but they could get it at Maurer Meats because they were used to having the butcher shop there, where everything started there. It wasn't brought in by a truck. We were welcoming to all. A place where you could feel comfortable. We wanted you to have a good time. We wanted you to see what you were getting. And the respect for new customers and old. So it worked out. We were happy. It formed lifetime friendships where, like I said about the Spanish customers, the young men came in at first, then years passed, then a wife or a girlfriend would come with them. And then the kids came with mom and dad to the butcher shop. And I've talked to 7-year-olds or elementary school kids. What does mom want? She would speak to me in English and speak to mom in Spanish. So I've watched some of my customers' children grow up from elementary school to high school, even to college. Because of the trust, we were invited to first birthdays, and quinceañeras, graduations, and from high school and college. They liked the native, excuse me, and because we were so kind, people made meat products or made their dish. Hey, you know that pork butt you sold me? Well, I make spring rolls with it. Here you go. Oh, you know that beef you sold me? They brought us hot tamales, handmade, wrapped in banana leaf, hot tamales. And then supasada, we ate a lot of supasada on crackers. We had any number of items that they made, they were able to bring to us because they wanted to share. This is what I do with your product. And so it was great. We got a taste of a lot of different culture. Manchester was our home. We belonged to MAMA, Manchester Area Merchants Association. Every Black Friday, we had an open house. And Manchester Area Merchants, they would have a bus or a wagon, and they'd go around to all the businesses in Manchester, and we would open our shop, as you see in the one photo there, my sister Teresa. They came in, we sold them bacon. They wanted, like Black Friday. Oh, I just ate so much yesterday. I got so many leftovers, but they bought a pound of bacon or sausage for Sunday dinner, Sunday breakfast. And so, in the end, it gave us a chance to give the 50-cent tour. People had no idea when, it was a great time, was opening the cooler and seeing the sides of beef hanging there. It was always a, oh, moment. We were in the parades, as you see, 51 years. We walked in the parades. Either Amber, you see Amber there in the bacon costume. We threw candy out of the truck. We threw pens. We threw fans. Whatever we bought, decided to throw that year. So the last year, 2018, well, we weren't going to miss another parade, so we marched in that parade. And Steve and Tom are holding the banner. And I think it's 56 years. Is that correct? 56 years we were there in Manchester. Oh, the fundraiser, excuse me. We did a lot of fundraising, whether it was baseball teams, fire companies, Lyndeborough, Manchester, Hampstead. We were involved in fundraising, high school events, high school teams. We helped our community. Next slide, please.
The butcher shop's influence on our art. So some of you may be aware, some of you may not be. We do a lot of butcher shop themed art, my father and I do. Next slide, please. So my art, when I do art, I like to focus on, so I discovered going to college that a lot of people didn't know the process of butchering. They'd be like, oh, you just go pick it up at the grocery store. But they didn't realize how much work went into the before part before you get it from the grocery store. It was always kind of frustrating, I put my life into this. So I started focusing on the cuts of meat and how you have to memorize every cut of meat and you have to be able to identify it and mark it and label it and cut it and wrap it up. So I started making soft sculptures in college. I hand sewed using my cross-stitching techniques. I made what I lovingly call meat pillows, but they are actually meat soft sculptures. And I sew them with black thread so that people know the amount of work that goes into each cut of meat, is to help emphasize that. I also was focusing on the destruction of small agricultural businesses due to large corporate companies like out west and all, where they are killing thousands of animals a day and there's no personality, there's no local family involved. And I thought it was a real tragedy that we're losing that in our American culture, this local family shop. So I tried to focus on that by not showing the background. So you see a lot of my art when you go and look at it, hopefully at the next show, that a lot of my art does not have backgrounds. And that's to show that the disappearance of the area's agriculture. I do a lot of colored pencil work as well as oil painting, and of course my soft sculptures that are hand sewed with felt. Here you'll see this is my tape dispenser, my beloved tape dispenser from the wrapping room. I like to focus on the tools that I use for each step of the process. Our Sharpie, which we used to fight over Sharpies. And this is a beef heart, and then some hams. And then this is the old meat truck. I drew that in colored pencil as well. Next slide.
Well, I am not a trained artist like Amber. I didn't go to college to learn it or whatever, but I took Amber to classes when she was 5th grade, Barbara Schnell in Hampstead, and I thought, well, I like art, I'll just do art with her for that hour or so, and we did that all through college. When she went off to college, I still went to class, and I was there painting, like going bowling. I would go once a week and do art. Well, I joined the Carroll Art Center, and I went to Susan Williams there, and I said, well, what do I paint? She said, well, paint what you know. And I said, paint what I know? Well, that's when I turned to showing items, like showing work at the butcher shop. And I did farm scenes. Some of my customers, they liked my art, and they said, hey, would you paint my farm? Sure. So we have Claude Warner's farm on the Glen Rock Road outside of Lineborough. We have Todd Schaefer's grandmother's farm in Harney. We have a farm near me where I live. And then I started to paint meat. So this is a rib roast on the splitting saw, waiting to be further fabricated into Bucky's rib roast. So that's what I did. I started to paint what I knew. Next slide.
So over the years, people have come to love that we do this local agricultural art, and we've had several shows together. Our first show together was in January 2014, where we had Meet the Maurers at the Carroll Art Center. We love to do play on words. In 2019 of March, we had more than Meets the Eye at the Off Track Art. And then coming up this summer, we're a part of the Agricolor Art Show at the Art Center. There will be another person joining us, but otherwise it's the two of us. And we're doing colorful, agricultural, and butcher shop art. Next slide, please. So please, this is our, our final call. Attend our art show coming up in July, where you can see all these and more up close. It's going to be from Monday, July 18th through Saturday, the 27th of August. And the reception, the artist opening reception, will be on the 21st from 5 to 7. And it's going to be over there at the Art Center, which is just across the street here. And we hope to see you there. Next slide. Thank you for attending. Also, I was going to say, I also have a wrapping video if anybody would like to see it, of how fast we would wrap the meat. And also, if you want a picture with the bacon or in the bacon costume, feel free to join us over here and take as many selfies or pictures as you want.
Well, first of all, please join me in a huge round of applause to hear about this incredibly important business in Carroll County. You guys are amazing. Now, I was lucky enough to be the director of the library when we hired Amber. And so you can see that that was a fabulous work ethic she brought to the library. And her boss, Lisa Picker, is here, who would fully attest to that. Amber, you're a rock star in every way. Now, we're running a little behind, so I'm not going to offer Q&A. However, George and Amber have brought a number of things that you must go see over there. Now, the first time that I saw George's art was at Bucky Edgett's house, and I looked on the wall, and there's this cleaver and a side of the cut of meat and a cleaver. I'm like, Bucky, what is that? And he told me then about the fabulous George Maurer and his work. And Bucky also always featured George's hams at his house. So Bucky has brought a wonderful photo view of all of his work that he has in his collection, and he will set that up. And so please, everyone, be sure to, Bucky, where are you gonna put that? Over there at the table with everything? Okay, yeah, take it over there. George and Amber have a lot of stuff. Mary Kay, who is the fabulous wife and mother of this crew, is here in the audience. She is retired from Carroll Community College, as Jason noted. And Janet, George's mother, is here. So we're delighted to have all of you here. And thank you for a fabulous family, Janet, who's made an immense difference in the place where you live. Thank you.